Team Gravity presents Fight Night.
Y'all ready for this?
StarCraft 2 for 2015 in the 8 months of StarCraft 2 that has been played, PartinG has lost a total of 2 PvT series. And one of those PvT series was in Shoutcraft Clan Wars, where the maps are things like there's a cannon in the center of the map that literally just like 2 shots mothership cores. Like, that was the situation that had to be concocted for PartinG to lose a best of 1 PvT series. I think the only other one that he lost was like another Pro League match versus Maru, and it's like, okay, it's Maru. We're gonna give him give PartinG a little bit of leeway in losing a best of 1 versus possibly the best Terran player in the world right now. But besides that, he's won every other PvT series. So for PartinG, this is like make it over seed, and then he's kind of in like the home field, like freedom. There's a very, very small chance that, he gets caught completely blindsided, because PartinG is absolutely on fire right now in PvT. It is unbelievable. watching PartinG's PvT right now. So that's going to be the big scary thing, I think, for both Teja and Gumiho. Whoever advances on, they're going to be hoping and rooting for Seed to win, I think.
Oh, I would imagine so, because beyond the whole PvT matchup, which PartinG has simply dominated, just this year alone, I think it's been perhaps his best year as far as his StarCraft 2 career. He hasn't won a huge tournament, but he's placed second in GSL, second in IEM Shenzhen, and the guy really has just come out firing the first half of this year. So I'm sure the other three guys are going to be on the lookout for him. But of course, Seed is going to be the first person to have to play against him. So the way this format is going to work today, and how these players even got here today, is that they were able to win their headliner match in the previous 4 weeks of Team Gravity Fight Night. And so because they won those 4 weeks, or their individual games, they are now here today to face off with each other in a round of 4 to split a $200 prize pool. And that is a good amount of money. First place is going to get $100, second place $50, and then $25 each to the remaining third and fourth place players. And, this amazing prize pool couldn't have been possible without a few sponsors. Tell us about them, Ravi, because, man, they have really been helping us out so much here with the Fight Night series.
They really have, and we want to give a huge shout out to the first of the sponsors, the one that is making specifically the Tournament of Champions possible. That's OFU, who stands for, maybe a phrase that we shouldn't be saying on the broadcast, but he's a really, really great individual in the community. He's done a lot of sponsorship, for example, for Base Trade TV with the different show matches and everything, and he's been one of the primary sponsors for the Tournament of Champions series that we've been hosting every so often for Team Gravity Fight Night. So big shout out goes to him, and of course, Droopy, what exactly is Spawning Tool? Because I know that's down there in that area in the overlay, and people might be wondering, well, what can I learn more about Spawning Tool?
Well, Spawning Tool is that replay service which is specifically catering players who want to analyze the games of professionals. So it's not your typical replay host where anyone can just upload replays. What they do is allow people to upload replays of pro players from premier tournaments and whatnot, to categorize them and then be able to start analyzing the play styles of different pros. So you can go on that website right now, you can search up PartinG or Seed or Tasia or whatnot and look up the kinds of builds they do, the kinds of success rates they have with them against certain types of players, races, maps, what have you. The analysis is absolutely crazy. Spawning Tool is a great way for you guys to be able to learn from those superior players, and they are an amazing partner for us here on Team Gravity Fight Night.
Yeah, we couldn't do it without them. And of course, if you're like me and are just dying for these high-level replays like the series we're about to watch, then Spawning Tool is definitely a tool you guys should check out. But with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be hopping into our first series of the night. This is in the semifinals. It's going to be our first series, but still the semifinals. And it's going to be a best of 5, again, between PartinG versus Seed. Droopy, are you ready for this?
I have to be. Well,
all right, well, you're going to have to wait a little bit longer.
Because we just bounced out of this game.
Yeah. The game, for those who are wondering, the game had totally loaded up. We were ready to go. And I think the players just left. PartinG was just like, wait, sorry, hold on, let's redo this. But we should be jumping into it fairly shortly. The first map is going to be Terraform, though, for this PvP. And Terraform is a map that I think, in my mind, I know that we do have, Coda inside the ladder map pool and everything, but I've really been liking Terraform. I think it's probably, right now, one of my favorite maps for, a standard-ish map that has some unique features in the ladder map pool right now.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. It's a nice 1v1 map, pretty standard sized, and it is potentially that next successor in the line of those, really standard, relatively well-balanced maps after Coda and Overgrowth before that, and so on and so forth. So, to see a game start on Terraform Ellie is awesome. Of course, the weird things about this map that do make it unique are some of the swirl in the center. Of course, that's just an aesthetic thing, but as far as navigating the map, you do have those little platforms on the edge of that swirl, which sometimes make it tricky for players to sort of get around if they're chasing after another player's army or whatnot. And in
Most
PvP,
definitely.
yeah, in PvP, I can imagine that sort of playing a factor early on, especially if both players just kind of one base it and go for big attacks.
There's definitely a lot of very interesting things that happen in this matchup on this map. First of all, because of that swirl, there's not as much wide open space, which might
Yeah.
not seem like a big deal because
Yeah.
people always talk about, oh, PvP. Well, I mean, it's going to be a bunch of like really early attacks early on, which is definitely still true. That's still something that is very common in PvP. But I will say, as it moves in the later stage of the game, we start to see more of those Colossus come out. Colossus don't have as easy of a time getting that huge concave. You end up having a lot of Colossus kind of maneuvering themselves behind other Colossus, not really attacking or participating in the engagement. But also, I've seen a lot of really intelligent Tempest usage on this map because of those cliffs. Because it's very difficult to get into a nice position where you're going to be able to snipe off your opponent's Tempest because they're over a cliff. It's a much more difficult region or area of the map to get to and to punish. So I'm really interested to see if we end up seeing that late game stage, or if we're just going to be seeing that early aggression that I think players like PartinG are really well known for.
Well, we're getting into the game now, and we'll be finding out very soon. Starting up here on the left-hand side of Terraform LE is going to be the red Protoss player, representing Yoe Flash Wolves, guys. This is PartinG.
His opponent, spine down here in the bottom right-hand corner of the map, it is going to be the one, the only Seed.
You know what's funny? I realized the reason why we had to remake this game is because PartinG didn't realize that Frost is Seed. He thought our wonderful observer set up the lobby wrong or something. Speaking of our observer, guys, today the cast or the series is going to be observed by Hawkeye, who is an amazing observer, guys, who is going to be doing all the production and everything. He, you know, his biggest thing is his what is it, creation of the rival StarCraft League. And that was something I had the privilege of casting for. He did an amazing job there, so we've had him help us out here for Fight Night, and really glad to have him on board today.
Yeah, he's a fantastic observer, and he's been doing a lot of the Fight Night observing, so if you guys want to check out more of him as well as checking out the Rival Star League, you guys should also check out more of Team Gravity Fight Night, because he's been doing some really awesome work for us here. Alright, but PvP on this map, Droopy, there's some interesting things that are already happening. PartinG is already sort of addressing this map in particular, I think, with the second pylon placement over by the ridge of his main base that goes out toward this area where I think a lot of Blink Stalker play can end up happening.
Yeah.
So he's already keeping an eye out for that kind of shenaniganry that can happen a little bit later on. He's also opening up, you know, if there is no Blink Stalker attack, he has a nice warp in spot where if there is some sort of weird contain that happens as natural, he still has the ability to warp in, try and put on some counter pressures. These small little things that we may end up seeing play a bigger part in the later stage of the PvP.
Yeah, absolutely. That just comes with the experience of playing on this map a lot and just understanding the different kinds of scenarios that can come when you are facing a mirror matchup where things get really crazy early on. As far as Seed, though, he's keeping everything close to the vest. He has put out a pylon on a different edge. Maybe perhaps he's more concerned about air coming from that area as opposed to blinking stalkers. But as far as these two yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think that's definitely a possibility. The other thing to me is that as a Protoss player, it's one of those intuitions you get watching other Protoss players, and you're like, this guy wants to hide some tech. This guy is going to put some sneaky tech down there. And I think when PartinG eventually, like, he didn't end up seeing that pylon. So he sees two pylons in the main base with two gas geysers, so he might be thinking, okay, let me check around. You can see he's moving around with his Mothership Core, he's moving around with his Stalker and his Probe. He's looking, oh, is there a proxy Stargate? Is there a proxy Twilight Council? Where was the third pylon? It wasn't immediately visible.
Yeah, and sometimes at this level, these players will do things like this as far as Seed, you know, putting that pylon further out, not just to scout the outskirts of the base, but also, hey, if it makes PartinG think I'm doing something weird, it might throw him off a bit. Just any little sort of edge that these guys can get with these, you know, small little different decisions they make, they're going to do it. But PartinG, you know, he's just going to go on here and take that natural. He's not, you know, too afraid yet. He's scouting everything he can. He's about to go and check out if Seed has a natural of his own. which he doesn't.
Yeah, Parting is still a little bit wary about that potential Oracle that could fly in. His Mothership Core is sitting on the right-hand side of his base, just trying to get that extra couple of seconds jump on being able to throw off the Photon Overcharge. But he's not going to be facing that, in fact. He's going to be facing a Twilight Council opening from Frost. Now, I don't know exactly when he ended up getting or putting all 3 guys into his Gas Geysers, so this could end up being a Blink play, but this could also just end up being some really fast DT expand.
Yeah, well, the thing is, Seed, I believe, did saturate those 2 gases almost immediately. That was a difference that I noticed between him and PartinG. PartinG took the 2 gases early as well, but he did saturate them just a little bit slower than Seed did. But we'll see if Seed decides to go with Blink or not. He did make a couple sentries here, and he has expanded as well, so he's not going all in with this by any means, but he is setting himself up when it comes to tech by getting that Twilight finished.
Well, for now, we have a Hallucinate Oracle moving out across the map for PartinG, and is now moving into the main base, trying to get an idea of what he's going to be up against. He does spot the Twilight Council, but that Twilight Council, it's actually turning out to be a complete fake, because if you look at the bottom left-hand corner of the map, there's double Stargates going down. This is actually some of the cheekiest play that I think you could possibly imagine, because you see a Twilight Council, and you see absolutely nothing else with that Proxy Oracle. You think, oh, you have 2 sentries and a Twilight Council. You're probably going either, like, you've hidden a Dark Shrine somewhere on the map, or more likely than not, you have your Blink Stalkers and they're already somewhere out on the map, maybe looking to start putting some pressure on. So I think PartinG is going to be in a really defensive position, but he might be warping in the wrong kind of units. He's making a lot of Immortals right now.
Ooh, he's got an Hallucinated Phoenix heading right here to the
Oh my god.
Seed, and PartinG right now must be saying, huh? Double Stargate? Really? He was expecting some kind of proxy tech, but more like a Dark Shrine, like you said, since he didn't see the Twilight Council researching anything. But now he does know, in fact, what is actually happening, and it is going to be the double Stargate proxy. So now PartinG going to start warping in some Stalkers there at the bottom, but for now, waiting on his Twilight Council to finish.
All right, well, 2 Phoenix are going to be the choice for Frost, and 2 additional Phoenix going to be following up behind this. So we'll see how much damage, sorry, not Frost, but Seed can do with this. Right now, just the 2 initial Phoenix, not going to be super effective. And, you know, PartinG has already been warping in a couple Stalkers, so he's prepared. He's not going to be losing an immediate, like, sentry or something to those initial 2 Phoenix.
Yeah, see, the thing to me about this proxy Stargate for Seed isn't really so much to get the units there faster. It's more to have, you know, hid them from PartinG, but the way things are now, is it worth it to him? He did kill off a Stalker, but loses a Phoenix in the process, and with the cannon there also in the min line, I don't think Seed quite has the opportunity he needs yet to really make use of this tech, and the longer it goes on, I think PartinG is going to have a pretty good defense up against additional Phoenix here.
Yeah, the big advantage of having the Phoenix is the fact that he is going to effectively be shutting down a lot of the vision. For example, picking off the sentry, not actually a huge deal in the sense of big army engagements, but it is a huge deal in the sense that he's not going to have that extra energy for Hallucinate Phoenix scouting out across the map. But Seed's losing a lot of these Phoenix for kind of minimal amounts of pickoffs. I agree with you. I think PartinG is doing a really, really solid job with the defense so far. And he has an Observer in the bottom right. Look at that. Look at that cleverly hit Observer.
I know. I mean, you say the thing about map vision is observers can't really be hurt by Phoenix without detection. So PartinG is still, you know, getting his eyes on whatever he can. And yeah, I mean, really just one Phoenix per unit killed of PartinG's. It's not worth it so far. Seed a little bit sloppy with his Phoenix micro there. As far as what he's doing now, he's not making any more Phoenix here. He's gonna just go ahead and stick with these 4. Would have been 6 if he kept those other 2 alive. But you know, a big investment in as far as the 2 Stargates on the bottom right corner. Not sure if it's worth it anymore. Probably not, to be honest with you.
Yeah, you know, I was actually a little bit surprised, because normally when I end up seeing these kind of proxy Stargate plays, it's not Phoenix, it's Void Rays. And it's a completely, I'm going to catch you so off guard with this, that a couple of Void Rays will just massacre us a very, very small number of Stalkers. And you can just get kind of surprising wins off that, but oh god, these Phoenix getting completely caught out of position, and it's because of PartinG's really smart positioning over there. He kind of ambushes them, forces them to go north, but he already has half of his Stalkers waiting there as well. So now Seed reduced down to just 3 Phoenix. Like, the double Stargate was a big investment, and he did not get his payoff from it.
Yeah, and part of being able to set up that ambush is having map vision. He had that observer just
Hmm.
chilling there, knew exactly how he needed to split those stalkers. So again, the idea of going Phoenix to stop map control is 100% sensible, except when you have these observers out on the map, that completely throws it. Just completely upends that strategy. And now Frost is potentially facing an attack here from PartinG, who's bringing his stalkers over. Let's see if he's going to be
Wow.
able to defend this.
Can we take a moment to appreciate just the very, very subtle things? I want to actually, like, people go back in the VOD for this and look at just how PartinG moved out with his map vision. Look at the map vision right now. He has stalkers moving along the bottom edge. He has stalkers moving along the middle edge. He had a probe moving along the top edge. He had vision around every single potential attack path on the map just to make sure he wasn't getting caught out of position. Just beautiful movement over here from PartinG so far.
Yeah, and right now we're going to see an engagement here between these two guys.
Oh.
These Phoenix are coming in handy because they are attacking those Colossi, but at the same time, these Blink Stalkers can easily focus them down if necessary. Now, one thing that Seed has going for him is 2 Colossi of his own, but he just doesn't seem to have enough units at this point to be able to tank for them. These Stalkers are now clearing up the rest of the gateway units of Seed, moving in to snipe down the Colossus. First is down, second is going to be finished off as well. Ooh, these 3 Phoenix will be able to kill off the Colossus departing, but nonetheless, it is PartinG who still stands here. GG, as he will take game number 1.
Really, really solid play over there. And I actually was liking some of Seed's positioning and kind of like the ideas, the mind games he was throwing out there. Proxy Stargate in the bottom left-hand corner. And yeah, it did get scouted, but I'm really, really impressed with how well PartinG not only handled the defense versus the Phoenix, he really just didn't take any damage. I know that he scouted it out beforehand, so he had a little bit of advance notice on this, but still, those Phoenix were supposed to have done more damage than they did, and it's because PartinG did some really, really great placement with his Stalkers, and every time the Phoenix tried to come in, they took that extra bit of damage. And the second thing was just that move out from PartinG. I actually can't emphasize how amazingly beautiful that was to watch. Like, it was an orchestration of movement across the map. It's like I felt like I was watching an RTS when I saw effectively 6 different movements, individual movements of units moving across the map to cover the full range of vision of wherever some kind of counterattack could be happening. It was really, really well done.
Funny thing about that is if that was me playing and that happened, it would most likely be because I was just moving my army and wasn't paying attention.
You're like,
and then
your army
and then
is
if I had somebody if I had say, "Oh, Droopy, that was awesome, man. You had all those avenues covered. That was a great strategy." I'll be yeah, you're right. Yeah, that was my plan.
Oh my god, exactly. I know exactly what you mean. Like, sometimes those kind of weird things will happen. It'll be like, oh man, my army split up because of this thing. But actually, I was checking my bases. I was making sure there were no proxy pylons along that north side. Yeah, but with PartinG, it's very, very clearly intentional with 2 stalkers moved along the bottom side, 1 probe moving all along the top side on a rally point, going through different kind of movements. You have another stalker coming in along the same side the army did. It just really, really well done. And I don't mean to say, oh my god, PartinG is just the only one doing amazing, cool things. I think Seed went for a bit of a risk in that last game. It was a cool mind game, but it didn't work out because PartinG was very, very solid and was honestly just there was a couple possibilities when you scout a Twilight Council and a Protoss player doesn't have any stalkers in their main base. One of them is maybe a Dark Shrine, and maybe that's what PartinG was scouting for with that hallucinating Phoenix that saw the Stargates. But at the same time, there's other possibilities, and it's really, really just shows good game sense from PartinG to know, okay, there are these other things I have to account for, and he scouts around the map, not just assuming that there's stalkers coming to attack him for a Blink Stalker all in.
Absolutely, and that's why he's up 1-0. So now we're heading into game number 2 here on Coda LE, and we first have here the guy who is up 1-0. He's the red Protoss spawning on the bottom right-hand side and representing Yoe Flash Wolves, ladies and gentlemen. This is PartinG.
And spawning up in the top left-hand corner of the map, we have the blue Protoss player currently sitting down 0-1, but it's a best of 5, so he has some time. It is Seed.
So looking back at Yeah, let's see what the fans are thinking right now, right? I mean, they've seen game one. They've probably been chatting about these two players for a bit here. Let's see who they think is going to be the favored person to win this best of five. So, looks like PartinG here, 63.6% of the vote here. And what do you think about that, Pure Dragon?
I think there's a lot of reasons for that. It's when we have those polls, I think that I found like throughout Team Gravity Fight Nights and just throughout using Hitbox and casting on Hitbox, I've noticed something about these polls. There's this split between people who vote with their hearts and people who vote with their brains. And honestly, just based on history, based on recent PvPs and like a Legulac statistics, my brain would have gone with Seed, but you know what? PartinG is just a fan favorite. He's got an enormous reputation behind him. Your heart just wants to go with PartinG when you watch or see like a series happening between these kind of two players. So I think it makes a lot of sense that a lot of people are still going with PartinG. But yeah, I think even especially after that first game, like PartinG just showed really, really solid PvP. But you know what? I'm not going to count Seed out yet because he is also a very, very solid player.
Yeah, and the other thing, is something you pointed out earlier, Fear Dragon, and it's that Seed just hasn't had the same kind of visibility for, the last couple years, actually, as PartinG. I mean, Seed, if he's been playing more on the Chinese scene as opposed to those premier tournaments that PartinG has been going to with regularity, then, PartinG is going to be the guy who people are more familiar with, who people just can safely assume is probably going to be the player who's stronger because he's been playing at the higher levels in the StarCraft 2 scene. So now we have an opportunity to see these two guys match up. First game went to PartinG. Now in game two, anything can go here as PartinG here is trying to take away a PartinG gift. Pun totally intended. And so
and appreciated.
And appreciated. So let's see what these guys are doing here as far as tech.
Well, we already have a little bit of tech being thrown down for PartinG. We got the robotic facility coming down in his main base. Nothing really like super sneaky or anything. And honestly, just very, very safe opening from PartinG. He did this last game as well, going for that earlier robotic facility, getting out the Observer, getting out the Immortals. And again, like the way that I would describe it is safe. The one that has been taking a few more risks has been Seed. And you can see he's sort of delaying that tech a little bit. But he's been getting a lot of sentries over here. So this kind of feels to me like a kind of Protoss that isn't going to get hyper aggressive. This is like a Protoss that is maybe thinking about grabbing an earlier Nexus.
Yeah, and right now PartinG is doing a little bit of scouting here with this Stalker. He's thinking there's a possibility of proxying again, but he just doesn't quite get to where the probe actually is of Seed. But the probe is yet to do anything right now. I mean, the tech is going down in Seed's base. That is a Twilight Council. So we'll see if that probe ever finds use for itself. For now, PartinG is going to go take his expansion and just play a little more defensively, very much like he did in game number one.
Yeah, we'll see how well this works out. The expansion is going to be going up, and he should definitely be able to use that as a defensive point for Photon Overcharge if this kind of Twilight Council plus the 3 gateways, which looks like it's probably going to be some sort of blink attack. We'll see how much damage it can do. As I was kind of saying, the Seed looks like he might be in a bit more of a defensive position, trying to take the expansion, but this looks like now it's going to be one of those, I'm going to make a couple extra gateway units, I'm going to try and cancel my opponent's expansion if they try and take it earlier than me, with a more gateway units than they are expecting, and I'm going to have an expansion that's later, but after I cancel their expansion, it's going to be an earlier expansion, like effectively. That's kind of what this is looking to shape up to be. We'll see if Seed actually does decide to commit to the aggression, or if he's just going to kind of play from behind a little bit.
Yeah, hard to say, but right now PartinG is committing to Robo here at least for a while, as he has cranked out his first Immortal, a couple observers out as well. And as far as Seed goes, still yet to do anything with that Twilight Council, as he is now going on to Robo himself. And everything's going to be scouted now by this hallucinated Oracle from PartinG.
Keeps going for the Oracles too. Droopy, how do you feel about the Oracle instead of the Phoenix? It's a little bit slower, but
well,
scare factor.
It's always fun to think, oh my gosh, like this Oracle can freak out Seed, and then he's gonna like run all his stalkers over and activate a Photon Overcharge. But he hasn't been falling for that quite in these two games.
Yeah, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of something Day9 used to tell people way back in the early Wings of Liberty days. He said in PvP, with your scouting probe, if you don't know what to do with it, just attack your opponent's first pylon. Because one in every, like, 500 games, they will just assume, like, oh, it's a probe attacking my pylon. I really don't care. And 1 out of every 500 games, you'll kill the pylon and just win the game. And it's one of those, like, you know what? Versus, like, top world-class players like Seed, it's probably not going to matter. But 1 in every, like, 50 games, they'll actually have a moment of doubt and they'll be like, wait a second, shoot, fire off Photon Overcharge. And they just completely waste it on the hallucinated. Like, that's what it feels like to me.
Well, we might need to see a Photon Overcharge here from Seed soon, because there's a Warp Prism coming in here, and it is an Immortal. Couple sentries as well. Don't quite trap as many probes as PartinG would have liked, but it was a good try, as the Photon Overcharge does send this away. We'll take out this pylon,
Very
though.
cute. Very, very cute little drop over here, and not something I've seen very much of. Oh, man, literally 1 hit point left on that pylon. Oh, man. Sentries, please. Dustin Browder, please, upgrade sentry damage by 1.
Yeah, sentries just not really doing the job there. Now, if PartinG had an extra probe, he could have left the probe to kill off that pylon.
There you go, man. Thinking outside the box. All we need is 1 extra supply that you can carry inside of a Warp Prism.
Well, it was a good try for PartinG, but now he is going to transition a bit, throwing down 4 more gates, waiting on that Robotics Bay. And it looks like both guys are looking to go with Colossus here, although Seed has had his Robotics Bay for quite a bit longer, and will be having a tech advantage for a bit, although as far as Colossi, he's only getting his first right now.
You know, I'm kind of wondering about that. PartinG has, as you mentioned, like, he's gotten up his Robotics Bay, but the Templar Archives is the very, very interesting factor over here for me, because we have Gravitic Drive that I think just finished up for Seed. Was that what we just saw finish up with the Robotics Bay?
Yeah, it is.
I think that these 2 players might be playing a little bit more about getting those, like, that Warp Prism harassment really, really in, especially, you know, Templar Archives. If you start throwing in Storms, they can do a lot of damage for, you know, Storm drops. You can do a lot of damage to Immortals. Wow. C is just absolutely just completely trying to return the favor of the Warp Prism Immortal Sentry drop. Didn't quite work out as well, though.
Yeah, PartinG just did a drop of his own, feedbacked on the Mothership Core.
That is sick.
Just so many of these, like, so close but yet so far types of things from both guys here, right?
Yeah.
With the pylon, with that Mothership Core hanging on by a thread. Both guys really being active here with their Warp Prisms, but the damage has been very limited so far.
Well, small little pickoffs over here from Seed. Managed to kill off a probe or 2 over the 3rd expansion. Gets a scat off over there. Finds a pylon. And just like this constant activity from these players with the Warp Prism. This is what I think a lot of players, when they saw Warp Prism usage in Heart of the Storm, this is what they kind of envisioned late game or mid game PvP and all the matchups would be more like. You would just have this constant 1 Warp Prism from each player just being active at all points in time. But I like this over here. PartinG moves out with his army, gets a cancel on the 3rd.
Ooh, he gets a cancel on the 3rd, but I think Seed might get a kill on this. Recall, though, may change that as
Immortal?
Seed not quite running. Loses some of those other ground units, but he did save the Immortal, as he now is going to move into that natural to drop there. So he didn't get the kill on the 3rd, which is going to be a benefit to PartinG here, as Seed had to cancel his. Let's see how much damage he can do here as PartinG's coming back to defend.
Yeah, you know, it's not about the overwhelming amount of damage. It's about the consistent small bits of damage, the annoyances, the forced recall back home.
Yeah.
You know, the darting back and forth between the natural and the 3rd. Like, every couple of probe kills that this Immortal has been racking up to 8 kills. So, I mean, it's not even like a couple anymore. But, oh, man, getting up a 3rd is so important for Seed right now. And it looks like it might get canceled again.
Yeah, it is looking that way. Although Seed does have an army back home, he can easily move to defend it. It's only 4 Zealots, and they are going to get saved by the Warp Prism as Seed makes sure he keeps this up this time around. After all, he is going to start falling behind if he doesn't get that 3rd soon.
Yeah, Seed trying to move into the Warp Prism, and the Immortal tries to drop it and says, I'll do some... oh, wait a second. Immediately 3 Colossus Fire. He's like, let's get out of here. Sentry, that sounds like a good idea. Let's leave right now. But, again, like, I really just am loving this kind of Warp Prism harassment. But Seed manages to pick off PartinG's Warp Prism as he's not quite controlling it as well. He's trying to hunt down his opponent's Warp Prism, ends up losing his own, but we'll see if he ends up remaking it. That's like one of the dangerous things about PvP, is that the robotic facility time, the time that you use to construct either Colossus or Warp Prisms or Observers, it's so valuable. It's like the 5th resource in PvP. I say like the 5th resource because there's so many other resources. There's like APM, there's robotic facility time, there's like everything else, but it's like another one of those resources, that time that you use for construction.
Yeah, I mean, if you use it making a Warp Prism, you're not using it to make a Colossus, but nonetheless, there are more here for Parting, as we're going to see a big engagement between these two guys. But a lot more charge lots here for Seed, though, because it is, of course, his home. He's got that defender's advantage, but so far, Parting just dancing outside that range of the Photon Overcharge, and he's going to back up a bit and warp in using his own proxy pylon.
Yep, making quite a few Archons over here. He does have 4 Colossus versus 3. 4th Colossus now just joining Seed's army. So it's important to note that even though warp-ins do happen pretty much immediately, so there's not exactly that same defender's advantage that you have in other matchups, the Colossus walking across the maps is a really big deal. Parting is not going to have any additional Colossus besides this, whereas Seed might have a couple more, and we're seeing Seed really just doing a good job trying to abuse the fact that Parting has to move up a ramp if he wants to attack in.
Yeah, and you know, when you are going with Colossus versus Colossus, positioning is so huge. Just making sure that all the Colossus can get in on the action and whatnot. Even with their immense range, it can get tricky going through these chokes. So we'll see how well Seed can utilize this to defend against Parting, who is sticking with his guns over here and continuing to just warp in more and more.
Well, we'll see where this kind of Mexican standoff ends up being. Right now, Parting is starting to back up further and further, and I think it's very much justifiable right now. Seed has a very scary army. I think he has a slight... I sort of like his composition a little bit better, but I don't like his positioning right now. He's sitting inside his natural expansion because there's been a Warp Prism warp in the main base, and that's going to pull him totally out of position to defend the 3rd.
Oh man, this is exactly what Parting wants. It's almost perfect to a T, bringing that Warp Prism to try to sidetrack Seed into exposing his 3rd. His 3rd is safe now because his army went back, but what about the main base? Looks like all these probes are shielding for the Archon here, which actually is doing work. I will say that, but the Archon does die, though, eventually, and now Seed's in a bit of trouble here. Loses his 3rd as well. Just everything went so bad for him in just 60 seconds of time, and everything's changed.
Everything has absolutely been obliterated over here. The Zealot count gets obliterated as Party makes the retreat down the ramp, and that's going to be enough for him to charge on through and take the victory. Party taking a 2-0 lead in this best of 5. It's match point, Droopy.
Yeah. And, you know, as far as things went for Seed, they're like, when you play against Parting, it's just not enough to keep up in macro, which Seed was more or less all right as far as macro, but I mean, you make small slips here and there, and Parting is going to just rip you apart. And in 60 seconds, that entire game was decided in favor of Parting, really. So you got to just be on your A game as far as playing against this guy.
You know, I love the way that you're putting that, because that's so true, and it's something that most people who are fans of Parting or have seen Parting, and you're actually a little bit crazy if you haven't seen Parting before, because he has been just winning everything everywhere, or at least placing very highly. But one thing that people will usually say is Parting is a very aggressive player, and I think a lot of his big victories, the most impressive part about Parting is not his macro. It's not that his macro is super lacking, but it's not his macro that's impressive. It's the way that he takes engagements, it's his positioning, it's his micro, and that is exactly what we saw happen in that last game. As you were saying, Jerpy, it's like that moment where everything looks totally normal, looks a little bit even. I even liked Seed's composition a little bit better if there was just a straight-up engagement. But Parting finds a way to force the engagement into an awkward position for Seed, and he takes the game that way. He's sticking to his strengths, and I think right now, Seed is kind of floundering on finding where to attack Parting or how to deal with Parting.
Yeah, I mean, and even just throughout that game, you know, while Seed did get in some sort of pressure as far as his own Warp Prism flying around the map and whatnot, we mostly saw Parting moving out with his army and sort of staying more on Seed's side of the map, just kind of getting that map control and being more, as you said, Fear Dragon, aggressive, right? And that just kind of shows the difference right now between these two players. Now we're in game number 3 on Moonlight Madness LE. This is kind of the last chance here for Seed to be able to stay alive. let's see if he can perhaps have a better start to this game and just stay in it and push this to game 4. So why don't you take it away, Fear Dragon, as far as the players.
Absolutely. As we spawn down here in the bottom left-hand corner of one of my favorite maps in the ladder map pool, Moonlight Madness is going to be the red Protoss player representing Yowie Flash Wolves. It is PartinG.
And we do have here blue Protoss on the upper right-hand side representing MVP, guys. It is going to be Seed.
So, Droopy, I've got to ask, man, because we talked a little bit about what PartinG is doing really, really well. What kind of thing do you want to see from a player like Seed in this situation? You're down 0-2. It's match point. You have to win 3 games in a row to move on to the finals. And you've tried mind games. You've tried a macro game. Both of them failed for their own specific reasons. What do you try in game number 3 when you're 1 game away from elimination?
Well, in these 2 games, Seed has sort of seen PartinG open up kind of the same way, right? Would you agree with that, Fear Dragon, in the sense that
That's
PartinG,
very true.
Yeah, I mean, he would expand first both times. Mostly went with Robo. Didn't, as much as his reputation is about being aggressive, he didn't do any all-ins. He, opened up, if anything, a more economical style. So what I want to see from Seed is an effort to take advantage of that. Granted, he hasn't had a lot of time to sit and think about it because, boom, we're here in game 3. But, the mind games in game 1, the whole chasing PartinG on, his second base in game 2 didn't quite work out. Now try to metagame him perhaps a bit and take advantage of what you assume he's going to do, because without that kind of advantage, I don't know if he's going to stay alive in game 3.
Droopy, I actually really agree with that kind of thought process, but the thing is, we're still looking at PartinG, and PartinG is still capable of that cheese. And we see that probe very stickily hidden in the top left-hand corner before the Cybernetic score finishes. That's a probe that's going to be planting down a 3rd pylon. That's a probe that's ready to plant down a proxy Stargate, a Twilight Council, something sneaky. I feel like is really going to be coming out from PartinG here.
Yeah. And, that's absolutely true. I mean, there's nothing to, guarantee that PartinG's going to open the same way for 3 games straight. And lo and behold, that's not what we're going to see here. He is going to be proxying something over on the upper left-hand side with that pylon. As far as what Seed's doing, he's going to open up with Twilight Council again.
No
looks like PartinG's
way.
opened up with Twilight Council too.
No way. Droopy, look at this. Look at this probe's rally path. It's headed straight for that pylon. It is going to immediately see the pylon, and it may end up seeing it. Depending on when the probe gets there, he may end up scouting a Dark Shrine as soon as it gets plopped down. That's actually devastating for PartinG. That's a really, really bad spot.
One thing about both these players is they've been vigilant about scouting for proxies. It's not something that they have kind of been negligent on. And here we are. There it is. Dark Shrine. Both players are going Dark Shrine, by the way.
Well, this is one of those weird situations where players have to say, like, well, I know that they know that I'm going for Dark Shrine, but they don't know that I know that they know that I'm going for Dark Shrine, and I also know that they don't know that they're going for Dark Shrine. So it's like, do you cancel your Dark Shrine? Do you immediately throw down the Robo? Both these players are going to be going a little bit safer. They're going to be throwing down both of their Robos, and it kind of makes sense, even when you're going for a Dark Shrine, this build order tends to, unless you're playing a very, very greedy style of it, you tend to go for the Robotic Facility in account for your opponent going for a Dark Templar opening. But it's a very interesting way things are playing out.
Yeah. Look at this. 2 probes trying to vie for this tower control here. PartinG taking the hits first is going to go retreat. And both players are doing very much the same thing. Looks like Seed is expanding now a little bit ahead of PartinG. So let's see whose DT is better than compared to the other.
One thing about this map that I have really, really found both fun and also maddening is this kind of like other side of Moonlight Madness, right? Like the area behind your Destructible Rocks. So you can see PartinG is kind of annoyed by that. He tried to be cheeky, warp into DT on the opposite side of the rocks, but now he has a DT stuck in this kind of like island area until he knocks down the Destructible Rocks. But Seed sees the DT. He knows that the Dark Templar Shrine, Dark Shrine didn't get canceled, and he immediately can just go after it now.
Yeah, Observer on the way as well to help out with that. So I mean, both players are, you know, fully aware of the strategy of going DT on this map, which is hiding those pylons behind the rocks on the opposite side of the main base and whatnot. And now I think both have defended them adequately. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, PartinG managed to kill off the DT that was trying to harass his base, didn't lose any workers at the same time. PartinG still has his DT alive, but I mean, it's working on destructible rocks, which is not exactly a good reason to have gone for a Dark Shrine. But at the end of the day, when it's even and you both open up the same way, you're kind of okay with like neither player getting the kills.
Yeah, I mean, I think you just kind of have to settle for that and be happy. But as far as the transitioning, as far as the macro here for both guys, we are seeing a Robo. Well, he's had this Robo, of course, for the Observer, but a transition to Blink for Seed. As far as PartinG, he hasn't made a commitment to go for that. He is actually going for some Forge upgrades first.
Yeah, kind of interesting. He almost threw down, I saw for a moment, a split second, PartinG almost threw down a second Twilight Council on accident, forgetting that he had opened up DT. It's something that happens, actually, a surprising amount of the time, but we're going to be seeing a Templar Archives coming out from PartinG, so this is very, very cool. We could be seeing that more Charge Lot Archon style. He's already getting +1 weapons. He may get like a couple more Observers just to supplement the army. Position can be very important when you have Charge Lot Archon. But we may even just end up seeing him go into like Storm or something and really try and utilize Psionic Storm in ways that we haven't quite seen him utilize as much in PvP.
Well, whatever he wants to utilize, he's going to have to utilize it quick, because it does look like Seed is going to go for a huge Blink pressure here now. He's got a lot of Stalkers over here attacking these rocks. PartinG is aware of it as well. He scouted this with an Observer. Now he's going to just get ready to defend here. But he doesn't have a lot of units just yet. He's waiting on these two cannons, which may not be allowed to finish.
Droopy, a lot of units is almost an understatement. I love the hallucinated Immortal over here to try and soak up hits, but it looks like Seed is just not going to fall for it. He has the Observer there and knows exactly what is hallucination and what isn't, but his Immortal from PartinG is not getting Focus Fire down, finally gets Focus Fire down, but I think that Seed ended up losing a lot more units there than he intended to. He still has some Stalkers alive, can try and do some more damage, but this is getting a little bit weird.
Yeah, that actually went fairly well for PartinG, and he has plenty of energy. Look, a second Photon Overcharge on that main base. Now he has to run through this Photon Overcharge again, and these cannons. Oh my goodness. How did PartinG hold this off so well? You just couldn't see that coming, especially with the amount of units he had in anticipation.
A bit of a weird situation over here, but Blink and Micro still going to be available for Seed, and he's still doing a great job. He also depowered the robotics facility for a while, so there's one less Immortal than there really should be right now.
Oh man, we're seeing a lot of fireworks going on. These probes are being pulled, and they're being killed. Happy 5th anniversary, StarCraft. And Seed still bringing in more Stalker reinforcements. Blink keeping these guys alive as long as possible. Lots of orange and yellow Stalkers, which is usually a pretty good sign as far as good Blink. There's still one more cannon here in the mineral line, proving to be pesky, but I think Seed's not going to have an issue taking that. Ooh, there's a DT here, and the detection from Seed is around, just a little bit out of place, but PartinG here, losing a lot in this natural.
Yeah, he could end up very well losing his natural expansion if he's not careful over here, but I mean, he's sitting on effectively a one-base economy right now, and even though he managed to kill off a lot of Seed's own economy with some nice harassment and everything earlier on, losing this natural expansion is actually really, really devastating right now. Even if he has those Immortals, he has those power units alive, he doesn't have an economy or anything close to the economy that Seed has right now.
Yeah, I mean, granted, Seed has kind of cut probes for a while now to make this huge Blink attack, but he's killed off the natural. He is ahead in workers because he killed quite a bit of PartinGs, and he's in a really, really good spot. One thing I will say is PartinG is just cranking out Immortals nonstop right now, and that's going to be his thought in trying to deal with these Stalkers. We'll see if it's enough, because right now Seed is looking to pressure up the front side now.
Yep, trying to Blink on top of the Immortals, not actually working out too well for him. One of the Immortals escapes with all of its health left over, just no shields right now. And really loving this micro over here from PartinG, but at the end of the day, I mean, the Zealots are really going to complicate things too heavily. I don't know if he's really going to be able to defend that in a ramp, much less his main base.
Well, there's a time where PartinG had 3 Immortals, and if you imagine all 3 were out at the same time defending from high ground in his main base, things would have fared a lot better for PartinG, but I guess, he pushed out a little bit, hoping to maybe make a counter, maybe clear out some proxy pylons. Didn't really work out too well for him. He lost a lot, and he still has yet to take a second base. So as far as Seed, he's got to be happy with what happened here.
Yeah, I think Seed knows right now, like, hey, I'm sitting on a 2-base economy and my opponent's sitting on a 1-base economy. I don't actually need to worry about trying to break this super late game because PartinG is going to have to tap out. GG gets called, and Seed finally putting his name on the board, sitting 1-2.
Yes, very well played there by Seed, and his transition was very quick. The DT, both players canceled each other out there, and then immediately Seed went to work in trying to research that blink. PartinG, I don't really quite know what his transition was there. I mean, I remember he went with the +1 attack on that Forge, but I didn't see him start making Robo. I didn't see him throw down a Robotics Bay or get Blink himself. It just, I don't know what he was trying to do there. And maybe because of that indecision, if it was indecision, Seed kind of had the jump on him.
I would agree, like, to an extent. I think that he did throw down a Templar Archives, but he was never able to really make use of it, right? Like, we didn't see any, like, massive numbers of Archons being made. We didn't see Storm research. It was about that big attack coming in when the Templar Archives finished. And when that happens, like, you don't really want to use up your time trying to make High Templars and then wait for them to become Archons, or like wait for Storm to finish. You need units right now, immediately. And that was the big problem, I think, for PartinG, is that big attack came in at the absolute perfect time over there for Seed. It was really well executed in keeping PartinG honest.
Yeah, you're right. He did go for the Templar Archives. It was a fair bit slower. It's like he started it while Seed was already starting to mass up those Stalkers. Am I remembering this correctly?
Yeah,
so
I would agree with that. I think that he ended up throwing out the Temple Archives after the attack was already happening. And I don't know, like, I kind of want to go back to that, like, at the beginning of that game, like, refresh my memory. Like, did PartinG have to cut a lot of his sentries earlier on to go for that Dark Templar opening? Because, when you go for the DT, or super fast proxy DT shrine, you are cutting things like sentries and everything. That means you don't have those hallucinate Phoenixes send in and get the full scouts off. I think PartinG was sitting relatively in the dark, especially compared to Seed, who had the knowledge of the Dark Templar or the Dark Shrine coming in. He had a full idea of what was going on.
He did indeed. But now we are seeing a game number 4 here. Seed has stayed alive. And we're going to move into that very soon. 4th map is going to be on Iron Fortress LE, folks. And our first 4-player map of the day.
And 4-player maps, it's a little bit of a funny thing in PvP, because if you get, it's not as big of a deal if you get unlucky with, like, your first scout and you found them in the second location. It's when you don't find your opponent you don't scout them correctly the first time, you don't scout them correctly the second time. By the time you get there to try and scout the third location, you don't actually get the opportunity to scout in time for most scouting patterns. You end up getting there after the Stalker's out or a Mothership Core is out. They deny your probe scout, and things like, where's my opponent's third pylon? Things like, did my opponent mine, like, a lot more gas than earlier on, like, than I anticipated they would? Like, have they gone for that early expansion? All those kind of big tells of, like, what your opponent's doing, no longer there. It can get really scary.
Yeah, and that's kind of where we bring in those cliches about PvP being coin flippy and whatnot. So as Game 4 is underway now, we're going to find out soon. So let's see who this first player is. It's going to be the purple Protoss on the upper left-hand side of Iron Fortress LE. Staved off elimination there in a very dicey Game 3. Let's see if he can hang on for Game 4 so we can see an ace match. Playing for Team MVP, guys, is going to be the purple Protoss Seed.
And his opponent, spawning in the bottom left-hand corner of the map, is the red Protoss player, currently sitting up 2-1 and still at match point. It is Yoey Flash Wolves Parting. So, Droopy, I want to talk a bit about kind of what we were saying. Like, PvP, it has a reputation of, as some players will say, coin flippy. But I've always thought of it as a matchup that is a lot about very, very subtle things. 4-player maps, probably the closest that it gets to being quote-unquote coin flippy. But for the most part, I think there's still a lot of things that you can do. There's safe openings that you can do. Blink Robo, I think, is probably one of the safest openings that you can do that just covers your bases. You have the opportunity to put on aggression. You have the opportunity to be defensive. You have detection. You have ability to deal with like Stargate things. You're not going to be amazing unless you have fantastic control, but it's a really, really solid option. But wow, look at this probe over here from Seed, going for the proxy.
Yeah, that's the funny thing is, there are safe openings. I'd say, the first 2 openings Partin did, you can consider those as a safe opening, but is it safe enough against what Seed's attempting to do here?
Droopy, remember when we talked about scouting patterns, and if you don't scout your opponent the first time, it's okay if you scout them the second one, but if you don't scout them until the very, very last moment, you can sit really, really in an awkward position where you don't have an idea about, say, proxy Stargates. Remember how we had that full conversation? Well, PartinG is actually an unbelievable god, and he's going to scout bottom right, and then he's going to scout top left. He's going cross scout. And I think this is actually a really, really smart play, because he realized, I think this is like, scout the 2 closest locations to you, because those are the ones that are going to be the potential for like the biggest aggression. But also, he saw his opponent's probe scouting his base, so he knew, like, okay, unless you scouted cross first, you're probably either bottom right or top left, just by how fast your probe got there. So PartinG gets the scout off reasonably early and sees only 1 pylon. That's the biggest reveal possible.
Yeah, that's absolutely huge, and he's always been vigilant about scouting proxies when necessary. I would be very surprised if this game was an exception to that. But Seed, pretty ballsy for him too, taking this location. I know, you could say, okay, PartinG could, there's a 66% chance PartinG's on the bottom of this map, so he could be on the bottom left or bottom right. But then if he was on the top right, would this have been a bad move for Seed? You could say that, but nonetheless, that's not the case here.
Well, Oracle's going to be popping out. We'll see how much damage he's going to be able to do. He's following this up. Seed is with a lot of gateways, so this is going to be a Stargate into really, really heavy a bit of aggression. Oracle immediately gets attacked, and I don't actually think he's going to get that many kills because the Photon Overcharge gets popped very early on, and those early Stalker shots, I think, caught Seed a bit off guard. I don't think he was quite ready for that, because normally you do have the opportunity versus, 1 Stalker and a Photon Overcharge to get the escape off, to keep that Oracle alive for round 2.
Oh yeah, that just did not work out well at all. But the key thing is did Seed scout that DT shrine? And if you clicked on it, and even if he didn't click on it, you could probably tell just the difference of the orb for the DT shrine versus a pylon. So Seed's gonna have to prepare for it back at home. For now, he's got this Oracle second one out, but immediately just cornered by these 2 Stalkers of PartinG, who was sending them out to look for the proxy. And now Seed is going to have to play on the defensive a bit. Funny thing, too, is Seed himself is also transitioning to DT, but he's going to have to rely on this Oracle here to serve as detection, as he doesn't have any other kinds at home.
Well, if he can finish up his Dark Shrine and get it across the map, or hell, even just use it a bit defensively, he's going to be in a great spot, because PartinG is not getting a robotic facility, not getting a Stargate. He's just continuing with the aggression off of these gateways, and PartinG is kind of on a timer right now to try and make some real big damage happen over here, and I don't know if he's going to have the opportunity to.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think, Seed, as much as that first Oracle failed in doing damage, it's scouted, which is more valuable than anything, and he is going to be decently well prepared. I will say this, though. The Oracle isn't going to have detection forever, okay? The reveal spell is just, very limited. It does run out, I believe, after 60 seconds. So if PartinG, can wait it out, and just continue to warp in down here, he can make something happen, or he can just warp in and morph an Archon as well. That doesn't hurt.
Oh man, but the Dark Templar is already heading into PartinG's base. Yes. He's trying to charge up the ramp right now. He's using the Archon to try and make sure he doesn't just get force fielded out, and he can knock down that force field. But here comes in the DT, and PartinG I don't even know if he realizes it just yet. Right now, he's just looking at the battle, and now he starts to realize what's going on.
Well, PartinG's have to go for an all-in here. He knows he's kind of in trouble down at his base. No detection whatsoever. Not going to have enough time to get any. Can these Stalkers do exactly what they need to help PartinG win this? I don't think so. Not because there's a DT here, and there's no detection. GG, and Seed has pulled this to an ace match.
I mean, Seed is showing us why he is a bit statistically favored in PvP right now. He's shown some really, really awesome play and just good decision making. I was a little bit surprised. You know, okay, I want to say that I was a little bit surprised that PartinG didn't end up going for the eventual robotic facility just because he didn't really have a good idea of what the follow-up was from Seed after that Oracle opening. But I mean, at the same time, I'm just like amazed that Seed was able to get out that single DT with the Dark Shrine. Like, it seemed like, in my opinion, if I was in PartinG's shoes and I only had seen his vision, I would have thought, okay, he's got a lot of gateway units. He's made a lot of stalkers. He's even just warped in a sentry. Like, he doesn't have any gas. He's not teching up. He's making just gateway units right now. But he managed to inch that in. So I think that maybe PartinG was caught a little bit off guard. But, you know, what do I know, man? I don't even know what was going through PartinG's head at that point. That was really, really well done by Seed. Very, very well executed in terms of, like, just inching out, like, the one DT to win that game.
Yeah, it's so tough. You're in PartinG's position. You easily rejected that first Oracle. You know Seed proxied it. You think you have it in the bag, right? You think, oh man, he's so behind right now. He's going to have nothing for this DT. He's screwed. But you yourself also let your guard down in the sense that you're not getting, you know, a robo to defend yourself in case your opponent gets DT. You just can't imagine Seed so quickly, you know, transitioning into that, right? Because he's got to get the Twilight and then the DT Shrine. PartinG just sort of got caught with his pants down there in game number 4.
Yeah, it should be pretty interesting to see how game number 5 goes, because we've seen the proxies from both of these players, and I don't think that either of them have really worked out. So maybe we'll just see a more standard macro game like game number 2, where PartinG did come out on top, but it was with one specific army movement kind of victory. It was the Warp Prism warping in the main base with the army coming at the third. And this is after a lot of attempted aggression from PartinG, like trying to poke in, not finding opportunities, so backing off. Trying to poke in, not finding opportunities, so backing off. So it was a lot of that. I think it was a very, very close game. So I almost kind of just want to see that kind of game happen again from both of these players.
Well, if there's a map to facilitate that kind of game, it would be this one. Another weird map in its own right. It's Bridgehead LE for the ace match today and the first round of 4 series here in this PvP. And we're going to find out after this who's moving into the finals. First player we have on the upper left-hand side is going to be the Red Protoss player. Went up 2-0 really quickly, but suddenly now losing a bit of that momentum. Can he finally close it out here in Game 5? Playing for Yoei Flash Wolves, ladies and gentlemen, it is PartinG.
His opponent spawning on the right-hand side of Bridgehead is the blue Protoss player making his momentum comeback. It is, representing Team MVP, Seed. You know what I never noticed about this map? And I'm like having a moment, one of those moments where now I'm just doubting myself on my knowledge about maps in general. I don't think I've seen a map where you can fit a pylon in between the mineral patches before. Am I going crazy? Is that just like something that happens on every map and I just haven't noticed this?
No, I mean, this is rare. This is really rare. I feel like on maybe some team game maps you can fit a pylon between the mineral lines, but as far as 1v1 maps, this is definitely a rare thing.
And Hawkeye's just like, no fear, Greg. Here's an example of a place where pylons can fit in between, and here's another example, and here's another example. So thank you, Hawkeye, for showing me. Yes, I am in fact just going crazy.
Well, to be fair, it's all on the same map. I mean, it's not like as
true.
Amazing an observer Hawkeye is, he's not like showing us all the different maps right now as what's going on. So
He actually just scrolls off to the corner.
Yeah.
We're suddenly on Zelnaga Caverns. Then we're on Overgrowth, who's just like, and up here, like just above the top right-hand base, we have Overgrowth to beginning.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, you'd be like, wait, how did he do this?
Dude, that would be so cool, man. If it like, you just had a map that like after the 10-minute mark, it opened up into a secondary map or something. Like the map just grew as the game went on. Dude, that would be so cool. Oh my god, Droopy, that's like the coolest thing ever. Oh my, that is like the sickest. That should be a Shoutcraft Clan Wars map if Shoutcraft Clan Wars is still happening. But if it was, it should have been. A map that literally grew in size and the boundaries grew as the game went on. How cool would that be?
You also get farther and farther away from your opponent.
Oh my god, you're on
Like,
moving
it's growing
platforms
from the center
and
or
the
growing from the
platforms.
edges. Yeah.
Oh, you're on moving platforms that start off really close to each other, and as the game goes on, they drift further and further apart, with more platforms showing up in between. Oh, that's Jerpy. We need to make this map. But you know,
Oh man, you played campaign, right?
I did.
Yeah. Do you remember that level? I forget if it was hot. No, it wasn't hot. It was definitely wings. Where
The lava
would
and you're
come
like
up.
you're migrating your Terran base
Yeah.
like repeatedly.
Yes.
I do remember that map. That was a fantastic map. But I do want to actually focus on the game for a moment because we are about to see one of the strangest things that can happen in a PvP. It's like the strangest thing possible. All right? There's a potential for it. We don't know if it's going to happen yet. We have double Stargates coming out. So Stargate coming out from each one of these players. Oracle coming out for PartinG. What is Seed going to make? Does he also make an Oracle? Because then, yes, he does make the Oracle. And I think that both of these players are going to have the opportunity to make a Phoenix afterwards. If both of the players decide to make Phoenix, we get locked into the weirdest type of PvP that exists. It's Phoenix versus Phoenix. And oh my god, PartinG scouts out this Stargate. He scouts out the Oracle being made because you can see the image of it on the Stargate. And that's enormous. Oh, he's starting a Phoenix, yeah.
Yeah, that is huge. He kills off 2 probes, by the way, so that can't be understated either. But with the recall, the mothership core's not going to be able to do photon overcharge, but PartinG, shouldn't have difficulty defending just one Oracle heading over. He's going to have stalkers.
Look at this. Perfect rally path to the Oracle.
Boy.
Hello, Oracle. My name is Phoenix. I move faster than you. Prepare to die.
Oh, man. The other thing, too, is, you're PartinG, you're thinking Seed. Okay, Seed knows I just scouted him. He's going to send that Oracle in a beeline to my base because he wants to get it here ASAP. Right? He's not going to try to go, fly it to a corner first and avoid maybe stuff in the center. Played it perfectly.
Man. PartinG even gets a scout off on this proxy pollen, and he managed to get it very, very low in health, and scouts out these stalkers that were warping in, so he knows what the follow-up is. Oh, this could not be going more beautifully for PartinG.
It couldn't be, but he does need to warp in some units at home to defend against this. Does he have photon overcharge ready yet? Not yet. Not yet. So Seed does have a small window. Small being the key word. A couple Phoenix lifting up these stalkers to limit the amount of damage that Seed is doing despite his increased stalker count. And it's working so far. But now...
Yeah.
Seed...
These Phoenix are actually going to be very much dead weight in a little bit because there's only 1 or 2 more lift-ups available. And Mothership Core comes in over here for Seed. Photon Overcharge for PartinG. It's going to be available soon, but he really needs it right now.
Yeah, he's going to get it soon, and PartinG can still warp in maybe a little bit more to hold on for just a bit longer, but Seed's still bringing in reinforcements.
Oh, very, very close over there. PartinG soaking up a couple hits with that Mothership Core. He's barely starting to hold on a little bit by bit, and Phoenixes are helping out quite a bit, and he finally has that Photon Overcharge available. He's got to back up. He's got to regroup a little bit and make sure he doesn't lose his one advantage, those Phoenix.
Yeah, and same thing can be said for Seed, who, is in a rough spot here. He's kind of committed to this, still warps in stalkers, doesn't expand. PartinG, on the other hand, has taken his expansion. There's the Photon Overcharge. PartinG waiting just for the right time, knowing, okay, I now no longer have the unit advantage. Boom, Photon Overcharge. Never activating it a second too soon, and I don't see Seed being able to push into this any longer.
Well, the thing is, Seed doesn't have to push in right now. He just has to continue warping because PartinG is not making use of that natural expansion just yet. It's effectively a sunk 400 minerals, and PartinG lost so many probes. He's down to 13 workers. Honestly, there's no even point in him going to that natural expansion. He also can't really afford to make more probes right now because he'd be cutting workers, and that photon overcharge expires. This is the big dangerous point. This is going to determine whether or not PartinG wins this series or gets knocked out over here in the semifinals. And right now, Droopy is looking like Seed is going to be able to advance on.
My goodness, and he's done it.
Beautifully
Wow.
done.
Wow.
After what looked like potentially with mirror openings, a game-winning maneuver over there from PartinG, getting the scout off on the Oracle, making the Phoenix, catching it before it even saw PartinG's base. It looked like it was PartinG's game.
Yeah.
But Seed with that micro, man, that micro and that aggression, really doing a great job there.
You know, when we started talking about this series, we were pointing out so much about PartinG having that reputation for being aggressive. But in these last two games, if anything, Seed is the guy who, you know, despite seeing his initial, you know, tech getting shut down as far as the damage it can do, he doubles down on that all in. He's transitioning into Blink or, you know, just massing stalkers like we just saw. And PartinG's the one who's kind of thinking, okay, I killed off the first thing. Now I'm going to transition. Now I'm going to expand and, you know, get some additional tech. And then that's when Seed strikes again with that follow-up. And that, as you know, we see in a second game in a row now, that really working out for him. And that's why he's been able to win 3 in a row and basically finish off the upset.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so funny because I'm looking now at the polls. We had a poll going, ace match. Who's going to advance? And you know what the results are, Droopy? You know what? Why don't you go ahead and read off the results? Because they're a little bit funny. Because I would not have disagreed with them when people were voting.
Yeah, it's a little lopsided to say the least. 83.3% for PartinG compared to Seed. So Seed taking this 3-2, my goodness, is a huge upset, if any, and that's kind of what Team Gravity Fight Night's all about. It's never over until it's actually over.
Yeah, Team Gravity Fight Night, for those who don't know, we have what we like to call the curse that's actually a blessing at Team Gravity Fight Night. We very, very rarely have ever had a series that wasn't close in some regard. Either it's, you know, maybe a 3-0 or a 3-1, but they're all really close games, or it's at least a 4-3 or like a 2 or like a 3-2 or something like that. The series is always really close. It's the Team Gravity Fight Night curse, Derby.
It really is. But, you know, the one blessing for all of us spectators is we do get to see amazing players play for every single game we have an opportunity to see. And these games were great, as exciting as PvPs can be. And, well, Seed, he is going to be happier for it. He's moving on to the finals right now, a potential to win $100 tonight. He's at least guaranteed 50, and he can just sort of chill out right now, join us here and watching the cast, because we're going to have the second part of the round of 4 coming up, guys. It's going to be a TVT between Gumiho and Taeja, and Seed, you know, he's going to be scouting out his opponents perhaps. I don't know. But until we get to that, guys, we're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back.
Bye.